Good morning and welcome to Arise News Now. I'm Gavin Ramjohn in London. It's Tuesday, the 16th of July. Our top story at this hour, after a week of relative calm in the streets of Cairo, fresh violence overnight between police and protesters demanding the reinstatement of ousted President Mohamed Morsi. 22 people were injured in the clashes over control of several key bridges over the Nile, and the violence lasted till the early hours of this morning. Julie Noche reports.
Violence erupts in Cairo Monday night as pro-Morsi demonstrators clash with police after a week of relative calm. A thick smoke hung in the air along Ramses Street after police fired rounds of tear gas to disperse the demonstrators. Many stopped to catch their breath. Mobilized by the Muslim Brotherhood, the large crowds gathered at points across the city, calling for the reinstatement of Mohamed Morsi, the country's first freely elected president, who was ousted by the military on July 3rd. As the night wore on, a fire burned on the 6th of October bridge that crosses the Nile. The injured were treated by doctors who set up an impromptu field hospital, with some suffering from tear gas inhalation and others hurt by stones or rubber bullets. At least 5 people were admitted to hospital. Although smaller than previous clashes, scenes of street battles continue to raise concerns over stability in the region's most populous country.
In South Africa this morning, the 9 policemen accused of killing taxi driver Mida Masia earlier this year are in magistrates' court this morning appealing for bail. The driver died of injuries he suffered when the policeman shackled him to the back of a van and dragged him along a street in Daveyton. With the latest on that and the news that the Thembu King has left the African National Congress to join the Democratic Alliance, our South Africa reporter Shahan Ramkissoon joins us on the phone from Johannesburg. Shahan, always a pleasure to speak to you. This bail appeal then from the police officers who allegedly murdered the taxi driver earlier this year, what have the court heard this morning?
Well, it hasn't started just yet. It's 2 hours behind schedule. It's supposed to start at 9 a.m. local time, but that hasn't happened. Lots of people are still waiting for the 9 police officers to come through to court. What's interesting here, Gavin, is that their bail application was initially denied when they were first taken to court about 2 months ago or so. So I'm not too sure exactly why they're trying to get out on bail again. What we do know is that the state prosecution team is trying to move this from the magistrates' court to the high court, where they want them to actually stand trial for murder. And that's what should be happening today. We should have a better idea, once they do appear in court, exactly how this process is going to unfold.
And Shahan, people all over the world were shocked at the pictures that we saw coming out of the about this incident. What is public opinion like in South Africa about this?
Well, South Africans were outraged about this. Xenophobia has been a problem in South Africa in the past couple of years, and this was what was called as the latest xenophobic attack on a foreigner in the country when it did happen. That was after the 2008 xenophobic attacks. Now, people were outraged. This went viral on YouTube. It was sent through many forms of social media, and the government really denounced it. And South Africans themselves came out to the magistrates' court, in their numbers, saying that they were not happy with police officers. These are the people who are supposed to be protecting everyone in this country, regardless of whether they have citizenship or not. Yet they were caught on camera dragging this man down the street.
And have the police been suspended, or are they still working, Shahan?
They were all suspended within 2 weeks after the incident. So, that was much of the public outrage in the beginning. It took some time before the National Police Commissioner did actually suspend them. They eventually were suspended. They're not getting paid, and they are currently behind bars, so they're not out on bail. I guess that's why, after 2 months behind bars, waiting for this trial to start, they're now trying to get out again.
And the Thembu King, Bulayakeya Dalindyebo, he has defected from the ANC to the Democratic Alliance. Why is that significant?
Well, it comes at a significant time. This man has come out quite strongly condemning the president of the country, Jacob Zuma, as well as the ANC. Now, you do know that the Thembu King is part of the elders who are involved with Nelson Mandela here. And he's come out and said that Jacob Zuma's government is corrupt, and he's also labeled his administration a bunch of corrupt hooligans. Now, he's really come out quite strongly against the president. We've never heard of him being so outraged by Jacob Zuma in the past, he seems to have capitalized on this time to actually show just how unhappy he is with Jacob Zuma and the government. Now, he's gone to the Democratic Alliance. They signed him over yesterday, but the Democratic Alliance was quite careful to say that this is not going to be a public figure or speaker for the DA. Instead, he is just an ordinary member. The ANC has welcomed his move to join the DA, saying that he's rubbished the party and that he really does have nothing to do with the ANC altogether. So they're happy to see him go.
So much controversy, as you've just mentioned there, about the King's behaviour in recent times. What do people make of this in South Africa?
You know, people are just saying that the King is using this opportunity where Nelson Mandela is in hospital to elevate his status. He has been he's been a figure of controversy in the past, but no real steps from his side where he came out publicly to speak against officials. We know that the Abatemba tribe have been trying to get rid of him as king since 2010. They didn't finalize that. Now this is the opportune time for them to actually do that. And they're going to use it against him to get him out as king. South Africans, of course, are really watching and laughing at this spectacle. This man, who's unheard of up until now, comes out and makes such remarks about the president. He even went as far as saying that he'll stop smoking weed only when Jacob Zuma stops being corrupt. So it is somewhat of a joke.
Jahan, thank you very much indeed for that update. Speak to you again soon. Now, human rights groups have condemned Nigeria for hosting Sudan's President Omar al-Bashir at a health summit on behalf of the African Union. Activists want Bashir arrested on genocide charges, and they say his visit to Abuja is an affront to his victims. Bashir denies the charges, which were brought by the International Criminal Court 4 years ago, and the African Union has advised member states not to enforce it. Bashir will attend a summit on tackling malaria, HIV and tuberculosis in Africa. Nigeria has long had a strong relationship with Sudan, which is home to one of the largest diaspora of Nigerians. Some estimates put the figure at 3 million. In Zimbabwe, President Mugabe and his rival Prime Minister Morgan Tsvangirai have hit the campaign trail ahead of national elections at the end of this month. Problems with early voting have already raised concerns about the polls. Regional mediators have once again called for free and fair elections after a Zimbabwean monitor criticised election officials for mismanaging the special voting period on Sunday for the country's uniformed forces. Thousands of police and soldiers had to deal with a lack of ballot papers and ink. In Greece, an increase in violence against immigrants in Athens has stoked fears that newcomers are being targeted by neo-Nazi groups. Will Vasilopoulos has the story.
4 years after fleeing political violence in his native Guinea, trouble has caught up with Omar once again, this time on the streets of Athens. He was assaulted recently, an attack that required stitches to his head.
I was coming down the road and there were 4 guys behind me. I wasn't paying much attention and didn't really notice them at first. They caught up with me and one of them hit me over the head with something. I fell and then they hit me. Once they were done, they left.
Such violence is becoming more common in the Greek capital. According to one NGO last year, there were 154 attacks like the one Omar suffered, even though only 24 made formal complaints to the police. In most cases, the victims were foreigners. They say the attacks were accompanied by racist taunts. Some even identified the perpetrators as people associated with the Greek neo-Nazi party Golden Dawn, which won 18 seats in last year's election.
It's always a team of people who suddenly attack someone who is alone. The most of the cases, someone from Asia. It's strictly related with Islamophobia, all these things. They try to punch him, but now they start using more knives or other objects. And in my understanding, they try not to kill, but to make visible injuries. So to spread the fear to the communities.
The official line from the top is ambiguous. Golden Dawn's rabble-rousing has been labelled unacceptable. But at the same time, the government has said there's no need for specific anti-racism laws. Meanwhile, human rights groups are calling for more action.
The Greek authorities have taken some modest positive steps recently to tackle racist violence. They have established anti-racism police units across Greece and have appointed an hate crimes prosecutor in Athens. But there is still a lot of work to do. They need to ensure that every migrant and asylum seeker, even undocumented, have the right to access the judicial system.
Greece is a point of entry to the EU and has seen both legal and illegal immigration increase over the past decade. And with the economy still in deep trouble, friction between newcomers and Greeks is set to continue.
In Brazil, a small slum area in the north of Rio de Janeiro is getting ready to welcome Pope Francis. The pontiff is coming to the country for World Youth Day, which starts on July the 23rd. And for the locals who live in the crime-plagued neighbourhood, the Pope's visit is God's blessing. Madeline Pradell reports.
Mass is taking place in the Varginha favela, one of the poorest neighborhoods in the north of Rio de Janeiro, where drug trafficking and violence were rampant until very recently. It's in this small favela that Pope Francis decided to come to meet some of the poorest members of the Catholic Church. For Father Marcio, to have chosen this community speaks to the new Pope's image.
He identifies with this community, a small community, a poor community.
In the past few years, the evangelical church has gained popularity in Varginha, like in many others of Rio's favelas. The Pope's visit might also be an occasion for the Vatican to reassert its presence and power. And even some members of the evangelical church seem happy about the pontiff's arrival.
The results of the visit might not be visible at first, but I'm convinced that in 4, 5 or 6 years there will be positive repercussions and we will have opportunities that wouldn't have been available to us before.
The authorities have been trying since 2008 to regain control of the most dangerous favelas ahead of the 2014 World Cup and the 2016 Olympic Games. They carry out what they call pacifying operations. Varginha was pacified 7 months ago, but according to its inhabitants, drug dealers are still there.
I would really like to see our community get some help, to have projects for kids, more activities, because there are a few things here for them.
But others only have one dream.
I will at least try to get close to him. I will ask him to bless all Brazilians and ask him for peace to be brought upon us because violence is still very present, and also for the people to have more faith in their heart.
But the event isn't making everybody happy.
The shops can't open even if we want them to, because it would be a good day to make money.
Whether it will be a good or bad memory, Pope Francis' visit to a favela will be remembered. It's been 33 years since John Paul II came, back in 1980.
And the world's media is camped outside St Mary's Hospital in London ahead of the imminent arrival of the future heir to the British throne. Arise News' Sarah Hemrajani reports.
The countdown for the royal baby goes on as the world's media gather outside a West London hospital, awaiting the arrival of the future heir to the British throne. The bets are already on with the international media camped outside the hospital for weeks. For NBC's Natalie Morales, it's worth the wait.
It's a great news story. It's so positive. People love this royal couple. William and Kate are everything that represents, the beauty of this country and also, the greatness of the people and of the monarchy. I think people are seeing, this is sort of a new modern monarchy and they're turning a whole new leaf.
With the long wait, there are some rules for the stakeout. The couple themselves have remained vague about the exact date the baby is due, other than to say mid-July. But the cameras are ready for when the good news arrives. Sarah Hemrajani, Arise News.
Oh, interesting. When will it come? Now, don't forget you can contact us online anytime. We're on arise.tv, Arise TV News on Facebook and Twitter at Arise TV, plus the YouTube channel, Arise News Channel, as you can see there. Thanks very much for watching. We'll keep you updated throughout the day. See you soon.